you're happy, safe, healthy, and I imagine that you are, like me, upset and mad and frustrated. The Dallas Cowboys lost on Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys lost to the moribund Carolina Panthers on Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys have 3 losses as of Sunday, and 2 of them are to teams and quarterbacks who most of the NFL world had largely given up on prior to the 2025 season. I don't mean to say or imply or anything about Caleb Williams or Bryce Young and the future of their careers, but ultimately, I think I am not incorrect or unfair in saying that a lot of people believe that they are not going to be proper NFL quarterbacks, and yet they looked heroic against the Cowboys. They looked unstoppable against the Cowboys. This whole Panthers outfit looked unstoppable against the Cowboys. Rico Dowdle, look, I'll say right now, I did not have any beef with Rico Dowdle's buckle up comment or whatever, but if you did, I am sorry, because if he did intend some sort of beef, if he was serving up beef in the comment, Rico Dowdle got the last laugh. Rico Dowdle owned the Cowboys. In fact, Rico Dowdle pwned the Cowboys. It was like a 2000s Xbox lobby what Rico Dowdle did to the Dallas Cowboys defense on Sunday in Charlotte. It is embarrassing how this defense just seems to exist on a possession-by-possession basis. They cannot get stops that matter the most. They cannot seemingly do anything on a functional basis. It is more than obvious. It is more than apparent. They are the anvil that is weighing down the offense that, for the most part, is operating at an elite level. And so it's created this horrible imbalance for this football team, one that kind of sees them running around in a circle, like Ross talked about his son Ben when Monica bumped his head or whatever and said he was just kind of going around in a circle like that. That's the Dallas Cowboys offense, and that's the Dallas Cowboys team. The offense keeps them in. The defense keeps letting teams score and score and score and score. It's a vicious cycle. We know it's the case. We're in mid-October now, and so we're not overreacting. The Cowboys have trapped themselves, and they're going to be stuck here for the rest of this season, unfortunately. On YouTube, Reyes says Dak is the greatest no-impact quarterback of all time. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, Reyes. If you could elaborate, I would love to discuss it. Shane Davis is going to waste this incredible offense. D-Day 2 says Eberflus, bend and break style is beyond bad. It is very frustrating. Look, I love Matt Eberflus. I loved what he did with the Cowboys in his first stint as the linebackers coach. I've talked many different times about the article that Robert Mays wrote at The Ringer at the time about Eberflus's relationship with Sean Lee, and I think that really spoke for itself. That's why I was excited about this, not just because of Sean Lee, but because of Anthony Hitchens and Damian Wilson. Again, the results were there. The data was there, and Eberflus's time as a defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts spoke for itself. He parlayed it into the head coaching job with the Chicago Bears that obviously did not go well. It is impossible. It truly is impossible to defend what we are seeing from Matt Eberflus. I do stand by the fact and maintain the fact that the man did lose, obviously, Micah Parsons a week before the season began. But in the same breath or a breath later, we have to acknowledge that the Cowboys offensive line is dealing with just a number of different changes and injuries and issues. And we're not seeing Clayton Adams or Connor Riley struggle in the same way that Matt Eberflus is. There's no question about it that Matt Eberflus is really, really, really hurting this team right now. And I want to give him whatever benefit of the doubt I can, but there simply isn't any available at this point in time. This defense, one of their best stops in this game against the Panthers came because of penalties that the Panthers had. It really had nothing to do with the Cowboys' defensive performance. Yes, they had an interception, and that was cool, but that was off of a tipped pass. It wasn't like they broke on a route or did anything or had any kind of legitimately star-worthy moment. So this Cowboys defense and its leader are to blame for a lot of what we're seeing here, the majority of what we're seeing from a negative standpoint. And if that doesn't change, obviously the results aren't going to change either. On YouTube, D-Day 2 says anytime other team needs a long pass, they throw it at Donovan Wilson for a touchdown. That's true. Lynn Snow, what's up, Lynn? Says the season is over from a playoff standpoint. It was important that they win 2 of the next 3. I'm not going to jump that far just because it is mid-October, and I think that obviously a lot of things can change, but from a pragmatic standpoint, I agree with this. The Cowboys this season, we all knew that they were going to be kind of, climbing an uphill mountain because of the Micah stuff and because of their general reluctance to utilize free agency and whatnot. So this is a team that has to win all of the games they're supposed to win. And while the Cowboys have obviously squandered this Panthers game now, we know, obviously, they also squandered the Bears game. And I say squandered because the Cowboys were favorites in both of the games that we're talking about here. 2 of the 3 losses, I think we're all willing to chalk up the loss at Philadelphia in week 1 as, hey, they were, it's banner night, Eagles, blah, blah, blah. Even though you can make an argument the Cowboys should have won, fine. You're supposed to lose some games, and we're willing to put that one in that category. But you were favorites on the road against Chicago. Yes, you were on the road. You were favorites on the road against Carolina. And you failed. I mean, you failed miserably against Chicago, and you failed against Carolina. And those opportunities you can't make up. You can't sit here and tell us late in December how you wish you had more time, how you wish you had more opportunities, how if you had those, you would capitalize on them. No, because these are them. These are those. These are the ones that you're going to wish that you could have had, that you could have wished you could have capitalized upon, and you are burning them. You are squandering them, and you are now 2-3-1, which is just the grossest and most dumb record of all time. Ecuador Man says they should have lost to the Giants. Come on, RJ. That's fair. You can certainly argue that they should have lost that game. I think that's why you have to win the ones you're supposed to win, because you're going to lose some that you're supposed to win as well. On Bleacher Report, because this is our postgame show, by the way, broadcasted live on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel and the Bleacher Report app. My name, because I was so rude and didn't introduce myself, is RJ Ochoa. Welcome one and all. Subscribe to the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. Follow me in the Bleacher Report app. And if you want to follow me on any level of social media, X, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. I have a Facebook page. Go like that wherever you are on the internet. I promise I'm there talking about the Cowboys. If you're on YouTube, the links to all of these places are down in the description below. Bleacher Report, got lots of comments, cut digs, no playoffs, fire defensive coordinator, fire the defensive coordinator. I don't know what that does, right? Like I've said this before, and this is not a defense, no pun intended, of Matt Eberflus, but let's just explore that possibility, right? Let's just talk about the idea out loud. There's a lot of people, and I get really uncomfortable talking about firing people because I would feel uncomfortable if somebody was talking about me that way. So I'm trying to offer this opinion with as much grace and empathy as I can from a human standpoint. But say you want to fire the defensive coordinator, okay? I understand where you're coming from a practical standpoint, obviously. Who replaces him? That's my big question. Who replaces him? We're at mid-October. You still have over half of the season to go. And I don't say that from some sort of cope standpoint, like they could turn this around. I'm saying that from a quantitative standpoint. Who takes over as defensive coordinator? This isn't last year or the years prior where if you had fired whoever, you had Al Harris to take over. You have somebody who you legitimately trust. You have somebody who kind of makes sense. You have somebody who's maybe a potential in-house promotion. I think we all agree that the 2026 defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys is not going to be Matt Eberflus, whether they move on from him in the middle of this season or after it. So my point is, what does that really accomplish? I understand that it maybe accomplishes somebody feeling better. Maybe that somebody is you. Maybe that somebody is a lot of you. But I don't know what the actual dot-to-dot line drawn in between them connection is. Who do you promote to be the defensive coordinator? You're still, I mean, again, I'm not making any excuses for this team. Only 6 games into a 17-game regular season. So now you change defenses or change defensive coordinator and you have somebody new and everything's changing, everything's adjusting, and you're making life harder for, everyone who is already up against it, so to speak. So I'm not against changing defensive coordinators. I'm just asking what your actual plan is if you're somebody who's suggesting that the team does that. And I'm asking that in a very polite way, of course. Will says Santa Claus. I like that idea. Those 12 reindeer, they'd get a 12-man on the field penalty, obviously, but, they play some pretty solid zone coverage, and I think Matt Eberflus would like that. Jonathan says, what is the point of the rest of this season, RJ? Well, Jonathan, I would say some good food and some good times, but ultimately, maybe getting some shares of people and players that are going to win you your fantasy lineup and fantasy, contests. That's really kind of it. This is not a team that's obviously looking like it can challenge. And I think that's what's frustrating is, and a lot of you, by the way, are saying Rex Ryan, both on on Bleacher Report and YouTube. James Franklin is an option that I've seen thrown out on the Bleacher Report side of the chat. I'm not going to go that far or suggest that makes sense. But I mean, look, the reality here is, and I think this, I'm going to find this week, but earlier in the offseason, or way back in the offseason, I should say, the Cowboys said, if I recall correctly, that's why I'm going to write about this at blogontheboys.com. I'll do a video about this as well on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. I'll go up on my socials. The Cowboys front office, Cowboys leadership said that Matt Eberflus was going to be the defensive coordinator, even if Kellen Moore had gotten the job. Obviously, you're talking about the job of head coach. So I'm not totally willing to put this at the feet of Brian Schottenheimer specifically. This does seem like a situation where the Cowboys front office meddled and said, a very common one, obviously, this is the guy we like. This is somebody who we're comfortable with. This is somebody who we have a past with, a relationship with. So we're going to do this. We're going to go down this route. And that's exactly how we're going to go. So, yeah, I think it makes all the sense in the world to give Brian Schottenheimer, I don't know, the head coach of the team, an opportunity to find the guy that he really wants. And that's probably a 2026 project ultimately because of just the time involved. I do think, look, we can say the defense is bad over and over and over again, and I'm not trying to ignore it. I'm not trying to move past it, but we have a lot of things to discuss relative to this game besides the fact of, the defense being the reason they lost. I think that you can certainly make an argument, and I've seen this a lot so far on social media. By the way, Brian Schottenheimer was asked, oh man, I'm reading this for the first time. John Machota of The Athletic tweeted this out. Cowboys coach Brian Schottenheimer, when asked if the players believe in the defensive scheme, this is Schottenheimer's exact quote, everyone. That's the bigger thing. I would hope so. I would think so. Whoa, that was me reading it for the first time. That's a little bit of a non-committal to Matt Eberflus answer, right? Like the company line, the party line is to be asked, hey, do they believe in the defensive scheme? Shoddy, who's Mr. Optimist, right, is hell yeah, they do. You bet your bottom dollar. You bet your ass, right? Like they absolutely believe. We all believe. We believe in one another. That's the coach speak, right? But to say that's the bigger thing. I would hope so. I would think so. That's casting doubt. I don't want to say that's throwing strays or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that Shoddy's stirring the pot, but I think this has reached an impasse to the point that I would imagine Brian Schottenheimer's pretty frustrated. The dude's coaching his ass off, and their team is 2-3-1, mostly because the defense has failed. We noted a moment ago that the Cowboys should have lost to the New York Giants. I think we all can at least square that logic, right? The reason they should have lost is because the defense couldn't stop Russell Wilson. The reason they tied with the Green Bay Packers is because the defense couldn't stop Jordan Love. The reason they lost to the Chicago Bears was really kind of a team loss. The offense didn't really show up that game as well, so I'm willing to say that one. But the reason they lost this game was because the Cowboys defense couldn't stop Bryce Young and the Panthers and Rico Dowdle. I mean, think about how awesome Rico Dowdle must be feeling right now. And again, I was not bothered by the buckle up comment, but Rico Dowdle has to be feeling pretty freaking sweet right now. Rico Dowdle's probably looking around like, I told y'all, I told them to buckle up, and they didn't listen. And look at me. Rico Dowdle, in case you're curious, by the way, finished this game with 30 carries. It was noted many times by Adam Amin and Greg Olsen that this was a career high for him. $183 on the ground. He had 30 carries, this man did, and still averaged over 6 yards per carry. And it's not like he had like an 80-yard run there. His longest run was only 15 yards, which is still long, but you get my point. He didn't have something that's inflating this average. He obviously didn't have a rushing touchdown, so what a loser. But from a receiving standpoint, had 4 receptions for 56 yards and the touchdown to start the second half. All told, this man had 239 total yards from scrimmage against his former team, the team who wouldn't give him the ball or wouldn't commit to him last year because they were hell-bent on doing it with Zeke Elliott for reasons that we can't comprehend as a fan base. Now, look, Rico, I don't know that he has this same day against any other defense in the NFL, so I hope he's at the negotiating table with the Carolina front office on Monday morning because, you want to strike while the iron is hot. Look, on YouTube, DJ2 says, to be fair, every opposing player every week can predict they will go off versus the Cowboys, and they always would be right. Yeah, I agree, but Rico was the first one to identify that. Rico was the first one to be like, yeah, let me try that. Let's see if it works. And he looks cool right now. This will be like the Rico Dowdle game. We'll remember this. I'm not going to say this is going up there with the Chaz Green game or anything like that, but this is kind of in that camp of hilarity and ridiculousness from a Cowboys perspective. On Bleacher Report, La Laker 951 says, Jerry will tell you all is good. Jerry is delusional. Going to be a long season with this defense. That's a thing. Like, I'm so exhausted of people. I understand why this is the case, but people saying, oh, well, the Cowboys traded Micah Parsons to fix the run. They've obviously not fixed the run. Here's the thing, man. The Cowboys said they traded Micah Parsons to stop the run because they had to say something, right? Like, we don't need to keep holding their feet to the fire on the literalness of that comment. There are a lot of things to hold the Cowboys' feet to the fire on, and this silly, innocuous comment is not one of them. Obviously, they're not good at stopping the run. They surprisingly and coincidentally were a little bit better at it early on this season, but the reason for that was because teams were succeeding so much through the air that they didn't have to run. On YouTube, Sports Fan says 2015 Peyton Manning on the ground would get 100 yards rushing on this defense. Peyton did have that bootleg 2 years prior to the year you're talking about at AT&T Stadium in the infamous Romo Manning game. Just a really, really, really tough scene. Newey Scruggs from NBC5 in Dallas noted that it is a quiet locker room for the Cowboys. This is look, there are different losses. There are different moments. There are different types of losses, different types of results, right? Where I think, like the Packers game was weird. It's just weird to tie, right? So you don't really know how to process that. You don't really know, what to do with those emotions. So it's kind of strange. There's obviously euphoria associated with winning. This game, this loss, this is a humbling moment. This is the Spork in Toy Story 3, like, we are trash moment for the Dallas Cowboys. This is truly a having to reconcile with the fact that you might actually be all of the bad things that people are saying about you on the internet. You might literally be that bad. You might be able to pull some things off and, have a crazy heroic win or a last second Brandon Aubrey 64-yard field goal sequence that leads to a win. But we're now deep enough. We now have 6 games to go off of here where that Spork, we know you are trash. You have to kind of have that moment where you have that reflective moment of saying like, wow, crap, we are trash. Like, that's really what we are here. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that morale is low for the Cowboys, and it makes sense that morale is low because, as Michael says on YouTube, Dak's got to be Superman. Dak Prescott damn near was Superman, and it's really unfortunate, right? Let's talk about the offense. I meant to get here a moment ago, but got sidetracked because, the jump on the fumble that Dak had was amazing. Again, he's got like one of these all the time now. But I am with everyone, okay? I've seen, unless was what I was saying a moment ago, I've seen, and I agree with everyone, that the final, what wound up being the final offensive possession for the Cowboys was basura. I mean, was trash to the highest order. You go 3 and out. All 3 of your passes are behind the line of scrimmage. I have no idea what you're doing. This is your mentality and your disposition when the Panthers can't stop George Pickens. I understand the run game's not there for you, so if you don't want to do that, fine. Nobody's making a big old deal about that. But the fact that George Pickens didn't get a single one of those targets with the game on the line is a little bit confusing and a little bit frustrating, especially when you know that your defense can't support you on the other side of things. I'm with all of you that Brian Schottenheimer deserves criticism for this. Even if you want to give some criticism to Dak Prescott here or to the entire offense, whatever, I think that's going way too far. But my point is, I get criticizing the offense for the final offensive possession. Okay, cool. My overall zooming out perspective, macro view on the situation is that we can obviously place blame and responsibility for the moments that the offense fails. But think about this. I mean, we are saying you have to be perfect. The standard that the offense has to live up to is it's not even in the same universe as the defense, right? All of us are saying defense, just be like the 25th best defense in the NFL. That's all. That's really all we need. Hey, today you're the 23rd. Awesome. Great job, little buddy. Right? Like, that is literally the expectation for the defense. But on the offensive side of the ball, it's, dude, you better be the best offense. Dak, you better carry this team. And I don't think anybody means it like you better, but that's what it has to be. That's the imbalance that's been created with this team, is that Dak and the offense and Brian Schottenheimer, if they have one moment of humanity, if they have one moment of morality, if they are not Greek gods for every single second of every single NFL game that they play in together, their team is going to lose. And that is just not sustainable. That simply cannot happen. You simply cannot roll and rock that way, or you're going to lose to teams like the Carolina Panthers. And this game is obviously proof of that concept. Let's see. M Wood 5 says Schottenheimer didn't call a good game. I completely disagree with this. Now, again, I'm with you if you want to bag on him for that final offensive possession. Brian Schottenheimer was in his bag early on. Now, the run game was not there. And when I say in his bag, it was really more from a head coaching standpoint. So maybe fine, I'll meet you somewhere in the middle here as far as being the offensive play caller. The decision to go for it on 4th and 4, the Cowboys lost this game by 3 points, right? We all understand that. They would have lost by 7 points if not for Brian Schottenheimer having such a deep and intimate understanding of both his team and the moment. In the first half, when it was 4th and 4, Greg Olsen even was like, dude, I don't know. This is a little bit too aggressive for me. Brian Schottenheimer decides to go for it. Cowboys take a timeout. They reassess. He says, I still want to go for it. Dak Prescott hits George Pickens, even though he's being held. And a few moments later, Dak Prescott hits Jake Ferguson for a touchdown. That is elite head coaching. That is elite offensive play calling and offensive knowledge and offensive relationship with your players from your play calling standpoint. So I'm not going to sit here and say that Brian Schottenheimer was a failure from the game overall. The only reason the Cowboys were in this game, the only reason the Cowboys lost this game by 3 points and not 30 points was because of Brian Schottenheimer and Dak Prescott and George Pickens and Jake Ferguson and Ryan Flanoy, Jalen Tolbert, obviously. I mean, like, we can go on and Brock Hoffman, like, everybody on the offense, I think, lives up, to a certain moment, to a certain level of responsibility. But, and I'm not asking this in any rude way. I promise I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I mean, name me one person on defense who's doing their job. I mean, I'm serious. If you're watching on YouTube or Bleacher Report live, or if you're watching after the fact, hit me up on social. Best way to get me is an Instagram DM. I am asking the class, who is somebody on defense who is, and we're not even saying playing at a high level, who is somebody on defense who is doing the bare minimum, who is just like literally performing the basic functions of their job on defense? That is my question. And I don't think that anybody can answer it. And it's unfortunate. And I don't mean to, disparage anyone or point fingers or say that, everyone sucks and this is the worst roster of all time. I know a lot of people like to use language like that and whatever, if we want to be silly and whatnot. But I legitimately don't know who you can say is just kind of, again, tall enough to ride the ride if you kind of look at it from that perspective. J-Dog says the whole damn defense is doing the minimum. I think you mean the actual minimum, not the bare minimum, the way I'm saying it. Maris is okay. Ecuadorman says that's fair. James Houston, okay, that's a good answer. James Houston, all right, respect. Good job, James Houston. See, like, again, this is why we talk things out, because it's not often, the exact, kind of emotion that we feel, but we all get the understanding here that it's not a lot of people. That the list of dudes who are meeting the appropriate threshold is so few and far in between that it's not enough, obviously, for the group to be legitimate overall. Let's see here. Anything else? Any quotes from anybody? No, these are quotes. Let's see here. This is a little bit strange here, and I like. This is not a conspiracy theory thing. I don't really partake in conspiracy theories in a serious way. This is a serious discussion. Clarence Hill of DLLS in Dallas tweeted out, Jerry Jones is not talking today after the game. I recognize that this is going to lead to a lot of jokes, obviously, and a lot of people are going to say good. A lot of people are going to say, I hope he's out firing Matt Eberflus. That is rare. It is very, very, very rare. If we're talking about like real definitions and consequences or whatever, it is very rare for Jerry Jones to be like, no, I'm good. I don't want to talk. That simply does not happen. I would offer, if I had to, that maybe there's a little bit of, shame and embarrassment associated with this, because how could there not be? I mean, how could there not be shame and embarrassment associated with this Cowboys team and front office overall? One of the most frustrating things that I keep hearing, and this is where I'll come at the front office, is and the front office deserves their credit for some things. Let's be fair. Like, we can criticize and credit when situations call for either or. Front office deserves credit for Javonte Williams. Today's not a good day to say that, but I think you understand that. Front office deserves credit for George Pickens for having interest in Ted McMillan, even though he went to a terrible school, right? Like, they deserve credit for some things. I'm not going to sit here and say like they're just full-on incompetent idiots relative to all this stuff. But where the front office deserves some criticism in my mind is, I agree with everyone. I agree with all of you that Micah Parsons does not fix this. And I'm not here to relitigate the Micah Parsons thing. He's traded away. I hope my watch is freaking out, so I hope everything's cool. Please be nice to me if the machines rise up and take us all. That being said, Micah Parsons on his own does not fix this. We agree. The Cowboys say this. The Cowboys offer this. The Cowboys use this as a level of explanation and say, yeah, well, the reason we traded Micah Parsons is because Micah Parsons on his own doesn't fix this. Okay, we agreed with you. We're not the ones who are in charge of the this, right? The this that the front office who's in charge of, they're the ones saying like, yeah, Micah doesn't fix this. So why are you guys mad at us for trading Micah? We're mad at you because maybe some of you, and I would put myself in this category, are mad because they traded Micah. Again, not to relitigate it, but we're mad because you are in charge of the this. You are the people who are supposed to make sure that the this is not so bad that even Micah Parsons could not fix it. So the excuse from people or the front office directly that trading Micah Parsons was inconsequential because he doesn't single-handedly help the defense not be the worst defense of all time. I agree that he doesn't single-handedly help them in that capacity. But where I am upset, and where we all should be upset, is that they are the ones who did this. They're the ones who built the defense that was so poor that Micah can't save it individually, which is the most ironic thing of all time. Let's see here. There was a question I wanted to get to on YouTube. Jonathan Andrews says, how are you feeling right now about the team and the season, RJ? In my experience, I've been covering this team professionally for a decade now. I've obviously been a fan of them all my life. I'm so very fortunate to have this as my job, and I count my blessings every day. And I'm very grateful to have friends and people on the internet who like to talk about the Cowboys with me. And so on one hand, like, this is the best, time of the year. There's nothing that can rob me of that. But I agree with Jonathan Dorch, though, who said Sun Devils lose and the Cowboys lose. Not a good weekend for RJ. No, it wasn't. The Gators also lost. That was tough scene. But, I mean, you can, like, to use that as an example, all my teams lost this weekend. And it's still, I would take this losing weekend, this just L after L after L of mid-October weekend over any in the middle of May, over any in the middle of June. It's just that awesome, right? That's how amazing football is. So the emotional kind of human part of me feels gratitude, I suppose, for this time of year, but the logical sort of analyst, if you want to call that, in me is upset because these things were avoidable. And it wasn't a matter of, as we just discussed, it wasn't just that they traded away Micah Parsons. It's that they have a long history of being inactive in free agency, of not being forward thinking when it comes to hiring coaches, of hiring their old friends. The defensive coordinator is an example of that. And so they paint themselves into a corner and they sit there or stand there with the brushes in their hands and go, who did this? That's where I'm most upset, is these dudes are holding the brushes up. They're waving them around like they're air traffic controllers. And they're saying, can you believe that we are painted into this corner? It's ridiculous. Dak Prescott can't even save us. And don't you forget that he's the highest paid player in the NFL, because we will remind you at every single turn so that the blame and the target can be on him and not on us with our brushes right here in our paint stained arms. So, I mean, I'm frustrated because they obviously are not trying as hard as other teams. And that's why I understand things like, you know, Eagles fans being so devastated about losing because their front office is trying with all of their might to win games and their team is just so dramatic that they can't, you know, find a way to make it happen. I don't mean to make this about them, but that's the other thing, right? I think we all thought, I don't like to do this, but I will do this right here. I'm going to speak for all of us for a second here. I think that most of us, at least, spent every moment from Friday morning until Sunday at about 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time going, hell yeah, the Eagles lost. Sure, the Giants won, but they're not really a long-term threat, and Dak Prescott owns them anyways. If the Cowboys win this game and they beat Washington next week, who knows? The NFC East is totally right there. I know I was down on this team, but they might find a way to pull this off. The Eagles might be that bad. The door might be open. Everything is totally possible. And then the team goes out and lays the egg that they did against the Carolina Panthers, and you're now forced to reckon with the reality that maybe that hope and that dream and that cope maybe is just not possible. Maybe it is, right? But right now, it certainly doesn't feel like that. Right now, it feels like anything along those lines is completely and totally outside of the realm of possibility. And there's no way this team's going to contend with Philly or Washington because they just lost to the Carolina Panthers. So how can you put any kind of stock in any long-term future, any long-term hope of them when you give them just the slightest bit of trust? And that's what this was, right? From Friday morning through Sunday early afternoon, we trusted the Cowboys. We said, all right, just go take care of business. You got this. Just go beat the Panthers. And dude, we will gas you up. We will hype you up like people have never been hyped up before. We will put on the foam Cowboys hats, like the 10-gallon ones, and we will weed them boys this thing into oblivion until we get to next Sunday and you play the Washington Commanders. But they couldn't even do that. I mean, they still have yet to put together a winning streak this season. And that's not necessarily representative of anything other than, I don't know, stability in the most important way. They haven't been north of 500 since October 6th of last year when they beat the Steelers to get to 3-2. It wasn't even like they were north of 500 at like 8-7 or anything like that. So this is a team that continues to carry just an overall disposition of, if it works out, it works out. And I don't even put that on the team or the crummy defense or anything like that. I put that on the ownership, the very top of the chain where it all starts and it all trickles down. It's very, very frustrating. And even though we're as well accustomed to it as you can possibly be because we've given this team our heart and our emotions for far too long, it still hurts us each and every single time. G-Man on YouTube says, can we trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick? Alex Storm says, don't worry, RJ, you'll be back on the copium by Wednesday. If they beat Washington, the copium will be strong with all of us. And I recognize that's a very, very long shot. On Bleacher Report, A. Matson 214 says, tackling is definitely a concerning issue, needs to be the number one topic of discussion. Multiple tackle for losses and sacks missed from piss poor tackling. I agree, but I mean, I don't know that tackling is the number one issue, right? Like, and only because like the number of issues, like we're above one, we're like in the negatives, right? Like we've climbed that high beyond zero, if that makes sense. So yeah, their tackling is poor, but their general coverage is poor, right? Like their general defensive scheming and adjustments and planning are poor. Like nothing that they're doing defensively right now is yielding any kind of positive results. They have like 3 turnovers on the season. It's absurd at this point in time. Let's see here. A lot of you said Rex Ryan as far as someone who could be the defensive coordinator. Nah, you can miss me with all of that. I want nothing to do. I will take Matt Eberflus over Rex Ryan. That's where I'm at on Rex Ryan. I understand the seriousness of the words I just said, and I stand by them nonetheless. Let's see here. Jonathan says if they beat Washington next week, the annoyance will be even greater for all the stupid losses. That's a great point. I mean, like, they should look. It's super easy. I understand this. It is beyond easy to sit here as a fan and say they should have won this game, and they should be undefeated, right? Like, because they're only looking at the positive things. You can make an argument they should have lost to the Giants. You can make an argument they should have lost to the Packers and not even tied that game, right? If not for the James Houston fumble at the end of the first half, which completely changed that game. So I get that. I'm not trying to just cherry pick in a positive way, but this is a team that this team has a quarterback who is playing at a higher level than almost anybody in the league right now. You can make a very objective argument that Dak Prescott is playing the position at the highest level in the NFL right now. He has a superstar wide receiver who is capable of, sort of amplifying his strengths and his skills and his abilities. And that whole phenomenon will increase even more so when CeeDee Lamb returns. He has a tight end who's having the best season of his career to date. He has an offensive staff around him from a head coach and an offensive coordinator and offensive line coach who are able to make lemonade out of injuries along the offensive line. Like, Dak Prescott finally is in a safe and nurturing and cared for environment on the offensive side of the operation for the Dallas Cowboys. And while everything is rosy and perfect and gleeful and perfect harmony there, on defense, it's like hell rains of fire and like chaos and just like everything is burning and everything is insane. It's like the universe in Multiverse of Madness where everything's like origami. You know what I'm saying? Like, nothing makes sense. And so it's just unfortunate that, Dak has finally reached a place in his career in year 10 where the circumstances and the variables immediately surrounding him on the offensive side of the ball are there to enhance who he is as a player in the NFL and obviously as a quarterback, as a leader, all of those things. But damn it, the defense is just weighing everything down. And again, the offense is not perfect. They had a poor final possession against Carolina. We all agree there. But the defense is just hindering any kind of would-be potential that they have. And the losses to the Chicago Bears and obviously most recently the Carolina Panthers are proof positive of that. Jonathan George says the first time a former Dallas Cowboys running back had 100+ yards against Dallas, it was tough scene. Sports fan says it's the "this is fine" meme. Yeah, like, that's the defense. I don't even think it's the "this is fine" meme. I think that, like, I think everyone knows. I think everyone associated with the team knows that the defense is really bad. I think everyone knows and understands that the offense is the only reason they have any potential hope. And I think everyone is trying. I think everyone is doing what they can. I think everyone is giving their all. It's just not enough. It's just they were built improperly and they don't have the appropriate help. They don't have the appropriate staffing. They don't have the appropriate whatever. I mean, so I think to say that it's the "this is fine" meme would imply some level of unawareness. I think they're fully aware of the way this is going and the weird vortex that they're all trapped in together. A. Matson 214 on Bleacher Report says Garrett plus Overshown would give us the mediocre bump that we could use to make us a serious contender. That's the thing. DeMarvion Overshown's obviously set to return. There was a report on Friday from Jordan Schultz that the Cowboys want to get him on the field by November. That would be cool, obviously, but he certainly doesn't save everything, right? Like, as excited as I am and as excited as we all are, he doesn't save everything. This is an issue that is going to take a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of resources. And again, Micah Parsons doesn't fix that, on his own. Even multiple first-round draft picks don't fix it on their own. They're going to have to put a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy, things that the front office are very uncomfortable with, into fixing this operation, or they're going to be, stuck and trapped here for forever. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion around Dak Prescott as it relates to Tony Romo because now Dak Prescott has started more games as of Sunday for the Cowboys than Romo did. And so, yeah, I mean, these are two gifts, two absolute treasured gifts that the football gods gave the Cowboys. They said, you know what, man, we know you did nothing to work for this. Here's Tony Romo. Here's Dak Prescott. Go on, Go forth and prosper. You know what? You know, like when you buy a video game early and you get the like special suit or special upgrade or special like boost of your traits or attributes or whatever. That's what the Cowboys got in the 21st century in discovering Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. They got the pre-order bundle edition where they got all the attributes and all the skill set, the special armor, the super powerful sword, or whatever it is, whatever game you're playing, whatever it is that you're into. And you know what they did? They said, okay, cool. Let's go take on the final boss. And if it doesn't work out, we'll blame the armor. We'll blame the sword. We're not going to spend any time upgrading our actual skill sets or learning how to play the game or figuring out what works well for us. Or hell, we're not even going to Google the cheat codes. What we're going to do is we're just going to let the armor and this do the job, right? Like we pre-ordered. We should be good. We should be totally fine. Like there's no reason to do any more work other than just firing the game up. And if it doesn't work out, if we don't beat the final boss, guess what, man? We'll just stop playing. We'll just play later and we'll just, give the console to somebody else and it can be their problem. They can figure it out. I mean, it's unreal that they have had two gifts at the most important position in the game and that they have managed to not only not reach the game's ultimate heights, but they have managed to hinder them both in the worst possible way that was within their realm of control. Brian Schottenheimer. So here's another quote from Schottenheimer, from John Machota of The Athletic, said Cowboys Brian Schottenheimer on why he believes Matt Eberflus can get the defense fixed. Matt's a great coach. Everywhere he's been, he's had good defenses. It's not just Matt by himself. Matt's trying. The players are trying. This is not a lack of effort. I completely agree with it. I completely agree that it's not a lack of effort. I think, and I don't even put all of the blame on Matt Eberflus. I certainly put of the available blame right now, I put the most on Matt Eberflus. But I think that, the front office said, that's our guy. And we believe in cool. He's got the armor. We pre-ordered for Matt Eberflus. And so he's just got to figure it out. Good luck with the final boss. And this wasn't even the final boss. Like this was just the Panthers. I mean, it's just, we're all tired. We're all frustrated. We're all mad. This is a team that is 2-3-1, and I mean they've got a lot of work to do, and now they have to be even more perfect to have a chance. And I don't know. I mean, it's their odds are decreasing. Their window of opportunity, not the overall window. I don't like that term, but their window for this season is shrinking. The window, again, we talked about this. What's frustrating, the window opened up a little bit for the Cowboys on Thursday night. It really did. The window actually opened, and it's just mid-October. The window will open and close. It will fluctuate many times over the next few weeks, but the window opened, and our biggest point of contention with this team is that, and this isn't just about the 2025 team. This isn't just about this coaching staff. This is about the disposition that has been created by the leadership of the Dallas Cowboys. When a window opens, instead of sitting up in their chair and saying, holy crap, the window's open, let's go now, they go, it'll be open for a while. We don't got to get up. And if it closes, it'll open again. That's the issue with this team in every single way. It was tough. This might be the most frustrating loss they've had. Like I said, I think we could square, we could make peace with, we could logic out losing to the Eagles in the season opener. And the Bears thing was weird, right? Like I think we were all just kind of like, whatever, it's weird. This one was, dude, you were right there. You should have had it. You're better than this team. Dak was amazing. The offense had that weird possession. I agree with that, but you should have won this game, and they didn't. And they will probably be sitting here at some point in December lamenting the fact that they lost games like this. And they're the ones who have to live with it, besides all of us, obviously. Look, I am really mad at the Cowboys, but gosh, I love you. I love you so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, for talking about the Cowboys with me. win, lose, or draw, which is a thing we actually have to say these days. I love coming here and hanging out with you all, and I'm really appreciative to any of you who give me your time, whether it's for the live shows or after the fact. Our time is our greatest resource that we have, and so that you would give me even a fraction of yours is something I take very seriously, and that's why I work very hard to ensure that we have the best possible Dallas Cowboys content for you available at Blogging the Boys. So bloggingtheboys.com, you can check it 24/7, 365. We have all sorts of Dallas Cowboys news, discussion, and analysis coming out from myself and our talented staffers here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Daily videos, live shows, analysis, grades, recaps, discussions, interviews galore. This week, Laura Rutledge is scheduled to stop by. I can't wait to ask her about our Florida Gators and how times are tough for Billy Napier. But it should be a lot of fun. So we have lots of fun stuff like that happening all the time. So make sure to like this video, subscribe, tell a friend. You got all sorts of things coming. My social, I've got all sorts of videos and content and things like that dropping each and every single day. X, Instagram, Threads, at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. My Facebook page, just search for RJ Ochoa. If you are anywhere, you have any app that is connected to the internet talking or interested in talking about the Dallas Cowboys or consuming content about the Dallas Cowboys, I promise you I'm there. And if you are on YouTube, the links to all of these places are down in the description below. We're going to make it through this. All right. We're going to be really pissed off on Monday morning. All right. Let's be straight up about it. Make sure you put some extra cream in that coffee. But we'll get up on the horse again, and we'll convince ourselves that this team has a chance to win next Sunday. Maybe not. Who knows? But either way, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I hope you are able to get outside, start to enjoy the cool weather kind of starting to arrive. Hope you eat something delicious. I hope you give someone a hug. I just hope it's a wonderful day for you. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday with some day after thoughts on this mess. And that's about it for me. So thanks so much for hanging out, everybody, and we will see you next time.